The success of this program really goes back to two words, which is empathy and creativity. These students, these individuals just need someone to objectively look at their situation with zero judgment and say, that must be really hard what you're going through. Let's think and plan how we can get you through to this next step.
That's the voice of Bethany Emery with the Chester County Economic Development Council in Pennsylvania. She joins us to talk about their award-winning Project Reconnect program getting adult students back to school. And they're not just covering tuition for remaining classes, but also helping with other barriers, covering outstanding tuition balances, helping with childcare and transportation issues, plus providing career advising and guidance. It's a comprehensive approach we can all learn from. Stay tuned to do just that, and as always, you can learn more about this podcast at livabilitymedia.com. With that, let's jump in. Welcome, Bethany, to Inside America's Best Cities. So excited to have you here today. We're going to be talking about your Project Reconnect work, helping get adult students back into school. But before we hop into that, can you just sort of give us an overview of that work and maybe a little bit about your organization?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So CCEDC, the Chester County Economic Development Council, has chosen to support businesses in 4 key areas. So that's financial solutions, location services, workforce development, and innovation and entrepreneurship. And so Project Reconnect really fit well within the workforce development programs. And it's really designed for students who have 1 year or less of their post-secondary training. And that could be anything from a certificate level program all the way through to a 4-year education. And this is for students who had to withdraw from school for whatever reason. Most of the time we found that it was financial burdens or just the barriers that come with the financial costs. And this grant not only pays for the student to re-enroll and start and finish their final classes, but it also pays for their previous enrollment balances as well. And that really was a game changer for so many students because so many of them could have found grant money or loans or things of that nature to cover those final classes that they may have had. But they didn't have the costs, they didn't have the money out of pocket to cover those costs that are associated with that re-enrollment balance. So this program really can cover both of those. And that was just a huge game changer for this program.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense that there's multiple barriers sometimes and being able to tackle all of those. Was there a certain driver or pain point or situation that sparked this idea?
Yeah, so oddly, I had actually come from higher education. And I was in workforce development, had not really had any plans to marry those two industries whatsoever. But then this grant came out called actually the Near Completers Grant, which was released from the PA Department of Labor and Industry. So when we saw that, we jumped on that opportunity because it just married a great background that I had just happened to bring into the workforce development program that we were trying to initiate. And I could see the students' perspective. I had that background. I knew the challenges of academics as well as personal life. And knowing that those two things were really a driver in needing this program.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you talked a little bit about how it works in terms of the different barriers that it helps tackle, but how do people get in the pipeline to apply or receive this? And then how does the funding actually, I guess maybe the money just goes directly to whatever it is they need.
Yeah. We have a partnership with 15 different higher education institutions. And again, that's anything from a certificate level program all the way through to 4-year schools. We actually had the schools themselves run reports and figure out which students qualified and which ones would really mostly benefit from this program. And because it sort of has that too good to be true feeling, hey, we're going to pay for your back balance, we're going to pay for your future classes. We wanted the validity of this program to come directly from the school first. So they were able to get out that initial line of communication to the students. And then we were able to do our follow-up call and find out really where the students needed us to focus and what those next steps would look like for the students.
Gotcha. And that makes sense what you're saying, like in a world of a lot of scams.
Yes, totally.
Or maybe not having heard of your organization specifically.
Absolutely. And we were also from another county for a lot of these students. So there was also that a little bit of, where are you calling from and who are you? And we have student navigators who work for our organization and really are the heart of this program. They are the ones who are walking students through every step of the process, serving as that advisor, that mentor for the students that help them really think creatively and problem solve and figure out how they can, get to that next step in their career path.
Makes a lot of sense. I know you're also using some of this funding to look at some of those barriers that are even beyond financial and aren't necessarily related to what you pay the school, like transportation, childcare, that sort of thing. Can you give an example of one of those situations?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of the barriers are things that the students can problem solve, but oftentimes, you know how it is when you're in the middle of a situation yourself. You almost need someone else to take that 30,000-foot view on your behalf and say, well, have you thought about, asking your cousin if maybe they can drive you to school that day? Or, can you think creatively on how you can maybe problem solve that situation? And there's so many times where the solution is available and right there, but it's so hard to see that right when you're in the middle of it. So oftentimes, a lot of our problem solving is just thinking creatively and with empathy and without judgment. Additionally, we have really, really strong community partnerships. We work with our PA Career Links. We work with our workforce development boards all across southeastern Pennsylvania. We have an amazing Chester County United Way staff. And so a lot of it is taking that holistic approach to problem solving, contacting our partners, doing those warm transfers of, hey, this student has a financial barrier. This grant doesn't necessarily cover that, but do you have a program that might be able to assist this student? And just kind of increasing that accountability from the student to the support system and making sure that you're just strongly supporting what their needs might be.
Yeah, you mentioned several different partners coming to the table for this. So, your organization, some other workforce development boards, I think, as well as the schools. So, as far as the role they're each playing, so the school's doing a lot of the kind of helping connect with students that could benefit from this and being like, this is legit.
Yeah.
And then from there, you mentioned you have team members that actually meet with the students, figure out what they need, and take it from there. Is that kind of how that works as far as who's doing what?
It is, yeah. I would say we sort of serve as the hub of the program and work with the schools, work with the students, but we really relied on the workforce development boards across all of those counties, Chester County, Berks County, Montgomery County, Bucks County, even into Philadelphia. We really relied on those relationships to help bridge the gap to those new education facilities that we wanted to tap into, but maybe didn't necessarily have that working relationship with just yet. And they were great at and very instrumental in introducing us to them, again, giving validity around the program and saying, these are great partners to work with. Let's see how we can make this work. And also our local workforce development board, our Chester County Workforce Development Board, serves as our fiscal agent for this grant and many others. And they are just a super strong community partner with us as well.
Any favorite success stories of some of the students that you've helped?
Well, it's hard to narrow it down, I would say, but there are several that stand out. One that I love to talk about is a student who came into our program who was unhoused. She had her children living in a different home because she was sort of couch surfing at the time. She she was not employed and was just really struggling. She had started a program, had to withdraw from that, and was just feeling that sense of urgency to get her life and her children back together. And so she started working at a fast food restaurant. She would stay after her shift and use their Wi-Fi. Her employer allowed her to stay and use the restaurant as her classroom. She completed her classes online, was able to secure housing. And by the time she was graduating, her children were living back with her in her home. She even followed up with us months later, just extending her gratitude and letting us know that she was doing really well. She was in her career that she had studied and had graduated from that program. And just a huge success story of what that drive and determination can really get you. And then also, again, having that support system around you and knowing that you can all do that together. It's just a really powerful story.
Yeah. What did she study?
She was studying medical billing and coding.
Okay. Are there certain career fields that you try to focus this on, or is it just really all over? I know you mentioned it was everything from certificate programs to degrees.
Yeah, so we had to focus in high priority occupations within the state of Pennsylvania. And then we kind of narrowed that down a little bit to do more focus within the medical field. We have a ton of medical needs within this community. We have lots of healthcare systems within our community. And so we focused a little bit more heavily, I would say, in the healthcare space, but we were not necessarily limited to only helping students within that space.
That makes sense. So kind of focusing on where the need is and going from there.
Exactly.
You're so right about just, the drive of the student, but also just being able to get that little bit of extra support sometimes, because I think we forget, especially if you completed school or college in like a really traditional way of going right after high school and, your life not being in turmoil and managing to kind of check that off and move on. And it's really hard to do at later points in life. And so seeing things like this are really cool. I know actually the Reconnect reminds me of totally different thing, but in Tennessee we have Tennessee Reconnect, which is our statewide program that funds any adult to complete a certification or degree as long as they don't already have one. And my mom actually just this year was able to complete a program through that, and it was really, really cool.
That's amazing.
Seeing her journey. Yeah, she was a hairstylist forever, and she got certified to teach cosmetology. So if you're already licensed, it's a 1 semester program, but just being able to get, some support. I know our local community college was really supportive at helping put her on a path. But yeah, just seeing people at all different ages being able to succeed and do something different that would be a really cool part of your job.
It's so cool. And it's so many of these individuals, they obviously have all of the financial barriers and maybe they have health issues, a lot of single moms. But more than anything, it's their own confidence level that has just been squashed and they just don't feel like they can do it. And so just having someone that comes alongside you and says, you can do this, let's do this together, it makes all the difference. Obviously, the financial piece of it for sure is really imperative, but having that emotional support is really what I consider the sweet spot of this program.
Yeah, that you're able to tackle it from all angles and be a support.
Exactly.
And even just someone being like, hey, you can actually do this.
Yeah.
That's very real. I know that you include some career advisement type of guidance once they've gotten through their program. What does that look like? Or is it just sort of kind of as we've been talking about, like just being that support depending on the student?
Yeah. So part of this program is partnering again with a lot of local organizations. So we provide career coaching and advising. We provide resume writing. We do soft skills and interview skills. Sometimes those are virtual classes. Sometimes they're in person, just depending on the needs of the students. And so that really sets them up for that next step. And a lot of students we found are already working. Some of them are in an industry that's close to what they want to do. So really they may be staying with their own organization and then upskilling or promoting to something else. And then there is always that handful of students that need to completely do a career change. A large majority of the students were already working at least at a part-time level, and a lot of them full-time. So there weren't too many students that were coming straight out of unemployment into their next career journey. So a lot of that was just partnering with the organizations that we already have worked with. We also, as CCEDC, we work with so many different employers in the area. And so that was honestly not too hard to just leverage those existing relationships that we have, making those introductions, doing those warm transfers from an employer to that job seeker, and then allowing them to, have that situation play out as it will. So we did do some hiring events and things like that, but we didn't find that the students needed that so much as just getting them through the journey of their schooling piece.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of, we actually just released an episode today, and it's about communities taking a more hands-on approach to connecting people with jobs. When you think about talent attraction, how a lot of communities are trying to have people move into the community and grow their workforce that way. But most people, I mean, unless you work completely remotely or have your own business, most of us have to figure out your job or where you're going to work. And that can be a little easier said than done, especially in the current climate. And some of what groups are doing to make that a more hands-on process of helping people make connections and have a more curated experience versus just being like, yeah, it'd be cool if you moved here, go to Indeed to see the jobs.
Oh, totally. And the benefit of this program is, the fact that we are working with these students one-on-one. We really do know what this student's drive is and what their passions are and how they're going to be successful in their career, their next career step. So
And where they might be a good fit. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So we can, I wouldn't say we necessarily vet them out entirely. We're not a recruiting agency, but we definitely, are able to see, okay, this student's worked so hard for the last year. They're going to be a fantastic
Like
employee.
they're going to be good at whatever they do. I love that. And I love using like an EDO's connections in new ways, right? To benefit different layers of the community. How long has this program been going on?
So we started this program in 2023 into 24 for our first inaugural year, and then now we're in our second year of it at a little bit scaled down version.
Yeah, so I did want to hear you talk a little bit more about that. I know that a lot of people this year have, looked at different funding being trimmed or rearranged and, how that impacts what they're doing and their goals. So can you share a little bit about maybe what some of those changes have been and how you all have, continued the work in light of that?
Yeah, so this grant was a 1 year grant cycle. And so when that expired, they did not reissue that grant for an additional year. So we knew that this program being so successful, we knew we wanted to continue it in some capacity. So we've acquired funding from local organizations just to kind of keep that process going and in hopes that at some point this funding will become available again. We've also sort of done some spin-off programs as well. We're working with Philadelphia Works on a program called Good Jobs Challenge. And I'm sure there's, lots of people who have heard of that as well. And it's a similar, I would say it's in the same vein as Project Reconnect. So we were actually able to leverage a lot of our education partners in launching that program as well. So it's certainly not gone. It's still very much a consistent heartbeat of what we do in our workforce development programming. It's just not quite at the scale that it was last year.
So you'll just continue to reevaluate what that can look like based on what's available.
Exactly. And we're continuing to apply for local funding, and we're keeping it going with hopes that we can continue to grow it in the future.
Yeah, and I guess that's the nature of the work sometimes, but yeah, being able to roll with it in that way. Anything else you would add? Maybe some thoughts on if anyone wants to replicate something like this in their own communities?
Yeah, I would love to see this replicated in other communities. And I'm sure there's other communities doing similar work, which is amazing. I definitely think that this is a program that can be replicated. The funding, of course, is very important. But in my opinion, the success of this program really goes back to two words, which is empathy and creativity. These students, these individuals just need someone to objectively look at their situation with zero judgment and say, that must be really hard what you're going through. Let's think and plan how we can get you through to this next step. And I think as long as people are willing to look at that with a little bit of creativity outside of the box, it could be a really, really successful and impactful program in your own local communities and really in the overall workforce as well.
Love it. And being able to see people as such individuals, which I think schools try to do, but are just limited by capacity a lot of the time.
Absolutely. The schools are amazing partners for us, and they're so grateful to have people like us come alongside them and hand their students financial support. I think a lot of them would love to be able to support their students even more than they already do, and they are just at capacity as well. So we are so, so grateful for our educators, and they have been incredible partners of ours.
Yeah. Have you given any thought, or maybe you already do this just out of curiosity, engaging volunteers in any way with this? I'm thinking of we have another program in Tennessee, and it's not Reconnect, but the name of it is escaping. Maybe I'll think of it while I'm talking through it. But it's the one for graduating high school students where, any of them can enter, some type of program at no cost to them. And they have volunteer mentors throughout the state that just sort of get the contact information of 5 or 6 students. And your job's just to sort of check in with them and make sure they're hitting the deadlines of all the things they need to do. So different cohort. But I was just curious if there had been any thought to, I don't know, how community members could.
Yeah, that is a great suggestion. I wouldn't say that we leverage community members so much, but I would say our employer partners oftentimes are on a volunteer basis, right? They're supporting us in all of the different programming that we're doing because Project Reconnect is one program, but we have several other programs going on throughout the year, not just in workforce development, but in all the different ways that the CCEDC influences our community. And our employer partners are such a huge part of that, most of them on a volunteer basis. And it's really because they see the big picture. They want growth for our community. They want support for our individual job seekers. And they're really an intricate part of that ecosystem of support for our workforce.
Yeah. Well, we always end with a fun wrap-up question, but anything else you'd like to add on our topic at hand before we get to that?
I don't think so. I think we covered most of the awesomeness of this program.
Yeah, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think it makes so much sense and love the individual nature of it. And I think this is exactly how we're going to have to be thinking heading into the future, right? I mean, we're heading into this the forever workforce shortage, as some people are calling it, and being able to think differently about talent is going to be a big part of meeting that. And so I think this is a great example of that. So fun question. Remind our listeners, where are you based? What city are you in?
Yes. So we are a suburb of Philadelphia. So it's called Chester County, and we're about 45 minutes outside of the city.
Okay. So if someone were visiting your area for the first time, and this is good because a lot of people go to Philly, right? But maybe not so much in your neck of the woods as tourists. So if they were, what is like a bucket list item they should make sure to do, or one of your favorite things you would recommend?
Oh, that is a great question. So I would say we have a lot of beautiful outdoor recreation happening in our county. Lots of amazing trails, hiking, biking, fishing, all the fun stuff outside. And one amazing location is called Longwood Gardens. I want to say it's the largest.
I've heard of this.
Yes, you probably
I've heard of this. Yeah, because I was in Philly a couple times. But yes, I remember it was not in the city. It was outside, but I didn't make that connection.
It is. Yes, it's outside the city. Totally worth going to. If you have a destination to hit something outside the city, Longwood Gardens is really, really cool. Just huge gardens to walk through inside, outside. They do fountain shows and light shows, and just it's a really, really cool experience. So I highly recommend all of the fun outdoor recreation in our community.
Very cool. Well, seems like a great spot to live in. I mean, I know we see suburbs like that of the bigger cities, but that can have their own kind of personality and community, really offer a lot in terms of quality of life.
For sure.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thanks for listening to the Livability Podcast, where we take you inside America's best cities. At Livability, we highlight the unsung awesomeness of small and mid-sized cities across the country. We also partner with communities to reach their target companies and potential residents through digital content and print magazine programs. If If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, rate, and review this show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also learn more about us at livabilitymedia.com. Have an idea for an upcoming episode? Email me at aellis@livability.com. Until next time, from Livability, I'm Amanda Ellis, sharing the stories of America's most promising places.